Why are my uke strings stretching so much? Keep watching. It's Baz back with the GotAUkulele guide for you. It's probably one of the most common questions I see on social media, particularly from beginners, and that is, why are my ukulele strings stretching so much? There's a lot of misinformation out there about ukulele strings, and in fact this topic also leads to probably one of the biggest myths I ever see, which is people who review their ukuleles and say, this is a good one, it holds tune. In the vast majority of cases, that is just complete rubbish, because a $1,000 ukulele can slip tuning just as easily as a $25 ukulele, for the reasons I'm going to explain. I have done a written piece on this years ago, but some people like videos. First up, in the vast majority of cases, the reason your ukulele strings are going out of tune is that this material, fluorocarbon or nylon, is stretchy. You put it on, you tune its pitch, you can often even feel it going out when you're playing it. Certainly you'll put it down 20 minutes later, you'll come back to it and it's completely out of tune. And that's because this material is a plastic and it stretches. And it stretches and it stretches really quite a lot. How much it stretches and how long it takes for them to settle so it stops stretching depends on the string brand, the gauge. But generally speaking, it also depends on how much you play it, which is the best way to stop it stretching. It could be anywhere from a few days, it could be a few weeks. I even see people mention even longer. It's just what it is. That is not the mark of a bad ukulele. If your ukulele strings are on and they are stretching, they are doing what they need to do. As I say, that's the vast majority of cases. The only other reasons why your ukulele strings could stretch, it's got nothing to do with cost of the ukulele or the quality of the ukulele. The only other reasons are that you've got them not tied on correctly at the string post. There's not enough wind, so they're slipping back on themselves. Or you've not got them on properly at the bridge, whether the knots on the bridge pins here are too small, or the knots are too small on a slot bridge like that, or the knots on a tie bar are not, and they're slipping back against themselves and the strings are stretching. That's user error. So often, even pre-stretched strings, if they've not been put on properly, will just slip at these knots. That's the other reason. It's not that common, but it is a reason. And then the final reason comes down to the tuners. Now, this is where there's also a lot of misinformation out there, because you generally get two types of tuners. You get these ones, you get geared tuners, and you get friction tuners. And I see a lot of people say, regardless of whether they are geared tuners or friction tuners, that if your strings are slipping, you should tighten the screws on the tuners. The screw here on the tuner, and sometimes they have screws on the end of the buttons as well, is there for nothing more on geared tuners than to hold the thing together. Tightening these screws will do nothing. In fact, because this is a transverse gear where the rotation this way is translated to rotation this way, it is impossible for the tension of strings to pull those tuners and unwind themselves. Just can't be done. The only reason that would happen with geared tuners is if these are broken. In other words, they're sheared and they need replacing. That's fatal. Where you do need to consider tightening the screws is on friction pegs, because the friction peg screw basically increases the friction and stops the peg unwinding on itself. That is the only sort of tuner that you want to adjust the screws on. If you have planetary tuners, they have screws. Be very, very careful, because that's a very delicate mechanism inside, and it's very easy to break them by messing with the screws. Tightening the screws on these does nothing. You might need to do it on these. But as I say, more often than not, string stretching is just a function of the string, and if it's not a function of the string, in the smaller number of cases, it's because you put them on incorrectly, or you've got friction tuners and they need tightening. It is not a function of the quality of the instrument. You cannot review an instrument and say, I recommend this one because it holds tuning, because I can set up a $30 ukulele and make sure it holds tuning just as well as this $1,000 Ukulele. I just can. That's just a fact. Quality does not dictate strings holding tuning. Strings hold tuning when they're ready to hold tuning, assuming you put them on properly. There we are. I'll come back with some more guides on things like this, because I think some of you find them interesting. Hope that was helpful. I'll see you very soon with the next GotAUkulele review. Take care.